all dignitaries, guests, and participants. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the webinar on organizing ideas effectively in written communication, organized by the School of Law, Sharda University, as part of online teaching learning process during COVID-19 lockdown. I, Dr. Jyoti Jayal, along with my colleague, Ms. Ravinder Kaur, feel honored to have with us respected Dean Sir, School of Law, Dr. Pradeep Kulsheshta, and the distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Gurpyari Bhatnagar, Sharda University. I extend my warm welcome to all of you who have gathered here today to make this webinar a dynamic repartee of ideas and wisdom. Before starting the session, I would like to introduce our guest speaker. Over 14 years of experience in educational setting as a faculty of English, Dr. Gurpyari Bhatnagar considers teaching and learning as a dynamic and interactive process. She is presently working with Sharda University, Greater Noida as an assistant professor, where she teaches communication skills and literary theories. Her academic interest and published work includes analysis of works of literature and other forms using classic as well as existing theories of criticism. She has presented several papers at the national and international conferences, the most recent being at the University of Arizona and Waterloo. I request respected Dean Sir, Dr. Pradeep Kulshrestha, to welcome our distinguished guest speaker with his words of wisdom.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jyoti Jayal. Very good evening to all. It is my proud privilege to welcome Dr. Gurpyari Bhatnagar. She is Assistant Professor in the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Sharda University, in this webinar on organizing ideas effectively in written communication. I congratulate Dr. Jyoti Jayal and Ms. Ravinder Kaur for organizing this webinar on a very relevant topic. I take this opportunity to congratulate my faculty colleagues for organizing and coordinating very relevant webinars with distinguished speakers to ensure that we remain ahead in the learning curve in this online teaching learning process which we have started. Dear all, being very good listener and avid reader is sine qua non for effective communication. Law and most of the professional fields require continuous learning, and written communication skill, they help one understand and create documents which are very, very essential. In legal field, we need to create documents to seek remedies from courts. And if we all remember, we started our written communication by writing the A for apple. So we started our journey from word A and then apple. Then we say basically, in my view, this communication is still written as well as spoken. They are on a continuous improvement curve, and every day we read, we learn. So communication, written communication especially, involves that we should read a lot and we should write a lot. That will give us a lot of food for thought, and good thoughts will certainly culminate into good communication that is written as well as spoken. Communication skill do not only include things like understanding vocabulary. In fact, they also include ability to use common software tools which are available nowadays. In law, we have many software tools which help one organize ideas. So when students they pass out and go to courtroom, they'll find many law clerks with a lot of good knowledge of courtroom procedures. I have seen in courtrooms nowadays with the advent of computer technology that everything they have in soft copy, and you just tell them the name of the parties and the relevant sections. They give you a rough data, a rough draft, but you have to improvise upon this because your effective communication will ensure that your ideas are taken in a right context. I think the written communication includes clarity of ideas, choosing appropriate words, inoffensive language, because many a times we, in rush of emotion, we may offend the reader. So we should avoid that. And tone, these are some of the basic elements of good communication. And I must admit that I am not the expert on this topic. And we have Dr. Bhatnagar with us. She has a very rich experience, and she will share her expert knowledge on how to organize ideas effectively in written communication, which I am sure shall be beneficial to all of us. With these words, I, on my own behalf and on behalf of the faculty, non-teaching staff, participants, and students, extend a very warm welcome to distinguished speaker and faculty coordinators. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Reflecting on past and learning from self and others' experience is one of the essential prerequisites of success. For a successful future, one needs to be well-informed and innovative. To hold up this ideology, School of Law has organized this webinar to enhance writing skills in order to improve performance in academic as well as professional domain. It aims at focusing on writing as an essential skill of communication. One should be able to use language effectively in the professional setup, and thus it becomes essential to understand the basic difficulties in writing. Choosing the right words and phrases, achieving economy in writing, using variety of sentence structure are some of the essential features of writing. The session aims to help participants to identify significant situations that require organizing ideas effectively in writing reports, emails, letters, and memos. I would like to invite our distinguished guest speaker to enlighten us with her expertise through her lecture session on organizing ideas effectively in written communication. Ma'am, Dr. Gurkyari, ma'am, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jyoti Jayal, for a very generous introduction.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope I'm audible to everybody, and thank you, Dean Sir, Dean School of Law, Professor Pradeep Pulshrestha, for giving me this opportunity to interact with your students. So, why this topic? So let me share the presentation with you first. Just a second. Pragati, can you please share the presentation? I'll just, yeah, I'll just do that. All right. I hope everybody can take a fine look at the presentation now. So why this topic? So there are two reasons. One, when I planned this topic, I had in my mind that my specific audience would be students. But more importantly, the reason behind selection of the topic was I felt that as students, you must have realized that at some point of time in your life, the fears that I have identified specifically on the slide here. So, so fear number one, which is I cannot express my ideas exactly because my vocabulary limits my imagination. The second fear, the biggest obstacle for me is that I cannot express my opinion suitably in English. Fear number three, I have many thoughts in mind, but I invariably find that my writing is not able to reflect the exact meaning of my mind. And then fear number four, when I wish to transfer my thoughts to words, there is suddenly a blank in my mind, and therefore this setback completely disturbs my enthusiasm of writing. So, and therefore, we decided to have an interaction with all of you, wherein we're going to have this topic as the prime point of discussion. So if you take a look at the academic setting, so you encounter various situations, right? So which can broadly be classified into casual and formal situations. So casual situations, the best example of casual situations, can be your daily conversations that you have. On the hand, you have, situations like, classroom discussions, your classroom interactions, your writing of papers, your writing of exams, your presentations, your projects, so on and so forth. But then there are also, semi-formal situations as well, which require your classroom interaction outside the classroom setting. So you could very well engage yourself with your professors, outside the classroom, for interaction. So, so be it formal situation, or a casual situation, or a semi-formal situation, what becomes very important here uh, is the term communication, right? So what is communication? So communication is sharing of ideas, sharing of emotions, sharing of feelings, and therefore we need to understand the technicalities of communication here. So there are 4 stages of communication. So remember, communication is not just the exchange of information. It's not just the process of encoding and decoding, but rather it requires ideation as well. So the very first stage becomes ideation, where you're forming the idea either in your mind or roughly on the paper. So unless you're going to form the idea very clearly, very distinct in your mind, you'll not be encode that idea into either written form, right? Or in the spoken form, either the verbal form or the non-verbal form. So ideation and encoding, which are the first 2 stages, happen at the level of the sender. And while, decoding and feedback, these are the 2 stages that happen at the end of the receptor, all right? But then remember, all your 4 subskills, your 4 subskills are your LSRW skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, right? So all the 4 subskills, are involved. So when you communicate, but then in today's session, specifically, we're going to bring in writing skill. So which is, of course, a very important academic skill. But then, obviously, it's also an important, skill set in the professional setting. So a skill that translates into your career field. And therefore, we decided to talk about this particular skill in today's session. So largely, we're going to talk about these subtopics here. I'm going to bring in the importance of audience. I'm going to bring in the importance of purpose. We're going to talk about the approaches that we use for writing. And then, obviously, we're going to touch a little on grammatical rules and punctuation as well. Right? But before that, let me draw your attention to the importance of audience through this very interesting story. So there was a disappointed salesman of Coca-Cola who returned from his assignment to Saudi Arabia. So his friend asked, why weren't you successful with the Saudis? So the salesman explained, when I got posted, I was very confident that I would make a good sales pitch, but then I had a problem. I didn't know how to speak Arabic. So I planned to convey the message through 3 posters, the 3 posters that you can see on your screen. So what is the first poster? The first poster is where we have a man who's lying in the hot desert land, totally exhausted and fainting. The second poster, the man drinks Coca-Cola. And the third poster, where the man is totally refreshed. And then he says that the 3 posters were pasted all over the place. But then his friend says, terrific, that should have worked then. So said the friend. So, but then he said, the hell it should have. No one told me that they read from right to left. So look at that, how important audience, becomes, right? In order to highlight the importance of audience further, let me take the example of a moot court here. Right. So remember, audience is what we are talking about right now. Audience becomes a very important aspect, and therefore this aspect needs to be taken care of before you sit to write. Right. And therefore, there are 2 very important questions, that you need to ask yourself, that relate to the subject competence as well as the linguistic competence of the audience. So both become extremely important when you have to, write any content. So you need to ask these 2 questions. One, what language concerning that particular subject, and 2, what is the language level of the audience? And then only in a way you'll be able to write specific to the audience concerned. So as I said earlier, so let me highlight the importance of audience further through some examples. So the very first example that I'm going to take is the example of moot. So why this example of moot court? Because this is a very important part of any legal education for centuries. So this is one activity that imitates what happens in real courts, and therefore as a student you have engaged yourself, you must have engaged yourself in this activity a number of times. So now, what is the example here? That as a student, you've been asked to cover moot for your college magazine, and you also happen to be one of the mooters. So now here in this case, when you're writing for the college magazine, you need to be very careful. Why? Because the audience for your report, audience of your report is not going to be only from your own school, which is School of Law, but then it is going to be from the other schools as well. It could be from across the university, could be from outside the university as well. And therefore, this kind of writing cannot be specialist to specialist communication. So obviously, the focus of your report, would be obviously the details, the objectives, which would relate to the proceedings, the participants who have involved themselves in the proceedings, the rounds of rebuttal, course of the submissions, and the questions asked by others. All these objective details would go. But then as an audience, I'm looking for something more to your report. So here, obviously, the focus of the report would be details of, say, would be the combination of both objective and subjective, because obviously, I'll be very interested in knowing your, subjective experiences also, your vivid details as well. So, so let us take a look at, how, you could open, this kind of a report. So I'll just read it out for you, what we have on the slide here. So I have both experienced sweating and bleeding, though not in a war, but as they say, as law students, these are the preparation of war in the outer world. After 5 years, no matter if you lose, you'll never end up being a loser, but a learner. With the line of thought, which never is an inspiration, but a consolation in the end, registered for the competition. So look at that, this is how you have opened your report, and you have a way engaged the attention of the reader who's outside your school of law. And then remember, the same, it's very interesting, that the same mood can also be a source of learning. That
Dr. Bhatnagar, your voice is cracking.
Am I audible now?
Now you're audible.
Ma'am, slides are not visible to some of the students. Pragati sir, the slides are not
visible.
Yeah, to some of the students.
Ma'am,
To some of the
I have
students.
shared it now.
Okay.
Now I am sharing.
Okay.
Ma'am.
So which means I'll keep running the slides, Pragati. Just please make it clear. So will I be running the slides from here, from my end?
No, ma'am. Please let me know when you need to change the slide. I will change the slide.
Okay, so I should stop sharing the slides then?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, students are not able to see the slides. Now I will share the slides.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
All right.
No problem. I will share.
Pragati, have the slides been shared? Okay, all right. So I cannot really see, which slide we're there. Okay, so this is, okay, you're on the right slide, Pragati. All right. Yes, so I'll have to use my presentation now. Okay, all right. So, Pragati, can we move to the next slide then? Okay. So yes, so we were talking about yes, how these two become extremely important here, where we have two different audiences here, one from within School of Law and then one from outside School of Law, right? And therefore you need to keep in mind the specific audience for writing your content. All right. So in the first case, so it's the combination of both objective and subjective. But in the second case, these are very intricate details of, legal proceedings that you are presenting. All right. And therefore, conducting audience analysis, becomes extremely important because, as it informs the writer about the demographic characteristics of the audience, the age, the gender, the educational background, the size of the audience, the width and the diversity of the audience, everything, becomes important here. So yes, what specific needs, what specific interests, should you address relating to the specific audience, that becomes important. What are the expectations of the audience, that becomes extremely important. And then so that you're able to adjust your work to relate to their specific audience in the best possible manner. And that would really allow you to pick up the specific words, the specific stories, the right kind of tone and the right kind of style for your content. Pragati, can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so as I said earlier also, we'll be taking quite a few examples since we are concentrating on writing here. So the second example that I have picked up is, when you're preparing. So once you're going to join a profession and you'll have to prepare a brief or motion for a judge. All right. So in this case, in this very case, as a lawyer, you are representing the plaintiff in a negligence case. All right. And therefore, your theory is going to build around two hypotheses. But then you're going to keep in mind the audience, the specific audience. And it's going to be a specific audience when you're writing the brief. So obviously, it is a judge who's going to be your specific audience. And therefore, you have to really keep in mind that, whether you're going to focus on the plaintiff's sympathetic qualities, or, you're going to, emphasize, you're going to focus on the defendant's flaws. So, for instance, we could very well have, in the statement like, Mr. Gupta was vulnerable. So this is one statement that you could, bring in. But the other statement could very well be the defendant was distracted. So it all depends on the judge here. And depending on the judge, you're going to write your brief or your motion, right? So can I have the next slide, Pragati? Okay. So now what becomes very important here is the purpose. So we've talked enough of on the first area, which is audience. Now the second is your purpose. So now remember, your purpose will always define the pattern of writing. So now we will have a discussion on two kinds of patterns. So any writing, either use deductive pattern or would use inductive pattern. Therefore, it is important for us to understand the two terms here, deductive and inductive. So when you open any write-up, any content with the central idea, then it becomes deductive pattern, you're deducing. So this becomes a direct approach. So you open with the central idea, and then, of course, you substantiate your central idea with, sub-ideas, with evidences, with elaborations, so on and so forth. On the other hand, we have inductive. So where you, writer, open with the neutral idea, that leads to the central idea. Right? So you don't open with the central idea straight away, but rather you open your content with a neutral idea, that leads to the central idea, that happens through the course of writing, much later in the course of writing. So, you as a student, use inductive pattern. If you have to convince your parents to buy you something, you generally do that. All right. So we will take another example here, outside writing. So for instance, PM Modi, used this strategy in his speech to disclose the news of lockdown to us. So we can have a number of, examples of, persuasive strategy. But then in this session, we're going to talk about two very important areas where Pragati, can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, Pragati, can we have the next slide? Hello? Yeah. Example is okay, thank you so much. Yeah. So the next example, the first example of persuasive writing that we're going to pick up. Can I have the next slide? I'm going to come back to this slide a little later. Can I have the next slide? Thank you so much. Yes. So the one example that we're going to pick up of persuasive writing is, again, when you are preparing your brief and when we have to talk about your facts. So look at that, how persuasively, you could do that, by talking about the factual details in a very specific manner. But then, you draw that in a very persuasive way. I'm getting, Jyoti, I'm getting a lot of messages here that they're not able to see my slide.
Yes, ma'am. I've asked Pragati sir to check the thing.
Not an issue. You are covering slides in your address.
Okay.
This is visible to me, but I don't know why they're not visible to the students.
Maybe some technical issue. Yeah.
Okay. So shall I carry on, sir?
Yeah. Please carry on.
All right. Okay. So
you may share.
So we have this example. Okay. All right. So I'll move to the. Okay. Yes. Now it's visible. I'm getting this. Okay. So Pragati, you'll have to go to this slide. Yes. Thank you so much. Okay. So now I'm getting the messages that now it is visible. So I'll carry on. So here, here we have an example, where you use the facts in the most specific manner, but then in a very engaging way, in a very compelling way, so that becomes extremely important for the writer. So the example reads like this. Around 9 p.m. on March 22, 2020, Mr. Your work when he heard a loud banging on the front door. Mr. Taneja opened the door to find 4 armed uniformed officers standing. We have an example where you draw the facts in the most persuasive manner, right? So Pragati, can I move to the previous slide, please? Pragati, the previous slide, I wanted to show another example to them. Okay, so this example is of a rejection letter. So, because in the process, I don't know, 30 students are there. And they generally, Pragati, can you move to the most of the rejection letters that we receive, right? So here, if you, so because here we are talking about the pattern which is inductive, where we don't really begin with the central idea. So here, if we have a rejection letter, which is, one in one of the slides, we can share later, because that is not really. So, in this case, then I have that would actually be sandwiched, right, between a neutral statement and a positive statement. So don't really begin with the rejection, the statement of rejection. Rather, your statement of rejection would fall much later in the course of the letter. So which means that you begin with something very positive. So, thanking the candidate for the application, and then you may give the reason for the explanation, and realistic to the reader. But in the second paragraph, later in the course of the letter, then you should come down to the uh, 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 statement of rejection, that you have rejected candidate. And then in the third paragraph, again, you should end on a very positive note. So look at that, how do we talk about, something, which is unpleasant? We don't just right away start with something unpleasant, but rather, what is something unpleasant should fall, somewhere in the course of your writing, much later. So begin with something positive, begin with something neutral, then come down to the refusal, end with, something again. So we have, let's discuss important strategy now. So Prati, I think you'll have to jump to slides. Can you please jump to okay. So showing the slides, was important for me, because this is a session on writing skill. LS, okay, so the topic, subtopic I'm talking about is a very important strategy that you should be using, which is to use to begin content with an affirmative statement. The statement which is positive. Thank you, Agati, there. So again, we have two contents. So if we compare the two contents, I'll read it out for you first, and then we're going to have a discussion on that. The defense argues that the plaintiff gave no warning.
Ma'am, Gurpyari ma'am.
I think our video and audio both are giving problem.
Got disconnected, sir. Yes, sir.
I think she is disconnected.
She has to sit closer to modem. I think she's away from modem.
I'm trying to contact her, sir. I'm going. Sir, I've informed ma'am about it.
Please call Dr. Bhatnagar.
Sir, I've called her, sir. I've informed her about the issue.
Let us wait for some time.
Yes, sir.
Of course. Meanwhile, Dr. Jyoti, you can use this time. You can share your wisdom.
Dr. Kulshrestha, I think we can discuss some of the points as we are waiting for Dr. Bhatnagar to come and join in.
Yes.
So I had a small little point regarding this written communication skills. One is, when you want to write, it is more important that the reader understands what we want to tell him.
True.
Or her. There are some basic principles of writing something that is in your brains. One is called clarity and other is called brevity. So you have the clarity of thought, the way that you want to analyze your case or put it to the paper, because this is going to be remaining in future for reference. So it has to be of very high standards. That is why the verbal communication is like you can still talk and get off with it. But when you put it something on paper, then it is there for reference. It speaks of your professional standards and also for any organization to refer back. So what we generally do in our area of controls, that if I have to write a case or write a brief on some incident, I first read the best standards that are available in that field, read some of the work before I start to write a good written work. So when you do that, you understand that, okay, this is how this case was presented, this is how it was analyzed, critiqued, and highest level of jurisprudence was applied at that language. And when you read that, then you will automatically be aiming for a higher standard of written communication skill. And brevity, which comes to my mind, is something, it has to be really concise. Whatever you want to say, you should be able to say in a very, very brief one paragraph, and thereafter the explanation can carry on. So there are many ways of improving your communication skill other than what the vocab or the grammar will let you do. Also, something comes to my mind, Dr. Is that you have to be formal when it is required to be formal. That means the format of writing, where the date, what the format of date would be, where the signature will come, because this establishes your official authority on that document. You can't scribble anything when it is supposed to go to a channel of hierarchy where people will see it as different. So the format and formality of writing as per the organization's requirement is also very vital when you put down something on in written communication skill. I think other friends can discuss and come out with the other discussion points and doubts. I am done with this.
Actually, Group Captain Amke Sharma ji, you are from science background. You are an engineer. So science needs different strategy. In non-science, especially humanities and law, what I have experienced, that if you go to courtroom and if you have a simple case like 138 check bouncing case, and if you are charging hefty fees from your client, then I have seen advocates coming up with voluminous pleadings. So just to impress court and client. So in there's a difference in science and non-science. In law, especially, I have seen the more you write, more you get marks. More you are voluminous, chances of getting remedy is higher. Even judges, they tell me that the higher the law firm, higher the volume of the pleading.
Yes. I mean, those are the secrets of the trade, I believe.
I think Dr. Bhatnagar has come back. She joined us.
I'm very sorry, extremely sorry. My internet is causing a problem today.
You position yourself closer to your modem. That may help you.
I've done that now. Yeah, thank you so much.
Now you're better.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you. Gurkapri Sharma was engaging in a very lively discussion in a website.
Yes, I was part to that. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, Sharma, for filling in the gap. That was very much required. I'm really very sorry, had to disconnect.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So yes, the points that Professor Sharma was discussing. I'll also talk about those points in a while. So those obviously are extremely important when you're writing, because as I said, you're not just focusing on one domain of writing. So all the domains, all the 4 skills are connected, right? So I think we left on the slide where we are talking about how important the affirmative statement becomes. So I think we had discussed most part of it. So remember, if you use negation right at the very start, so that obviously is going to mar your credibility. So that would seem that you would just are being defensive there. So it's better not to use negation right at the very start in your writing. So that becomes important. So use positive statements as much as you can. Pragati, can we move to the next? Okay. Yes. So as I said earlier, also these grammatical details also become important. So obviously since when I'm addressing my students, you've really gone so much when it comes to writing. These are the details regarding structure, details regarding grammatical concepts, have already been talked about, at the level of school. But nevertheless, there are certain aspects that we need to be very careful of. And one of the examples is, this, generally troubles us, whether you should be using active voice or you should be using passive voice in your writing. So remember, it's always safer to use active voice. Why? Because whenever you're in doubt, it is always useful to try, to write actively. One, it is easier to read, less wordy, and then obviously, it is more convincing, than those written in passive voice. So that is for sure. But if we have, example like this that we have on this slide, where we have, where you are representing somebody who's accused of assault, so obviously the voice that you'll be using, has to be passive. Why? Because here, you would like to downplay the actor here. You would downplay the doer here, and you would like to downplay his action, and therefore you cannot really use the active voice. And therefore it becomes very important for us to realize whether one should be using active voice or one should be using passive voice. So obviously the safer, as I said earlier, also is generally to use active. But then if you come across such occasions, then you have to be very careful. In that case, you should be using passive voice. Pragati, can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so once you have written your content, so you can. So what becomes very important now is to proofread your content. So proofreading the content for punctuation errors. So this is one area that we generally don't really take care of when we are writing. So let me bring home this point through an interesting story. Pragati, can we have the next slide, please? So there's a panda who walks into a cafe, orders a sandwich, and then he draws a gun and fires 2 shots in the air, right? So everybody is very confused. So one of the waiters goes to the panda and asks him to give the explanation for his behavior. So the panda shows him a very badly punctuated dictionary, which says something like this: panda, large black and white bear-like mammal, native to China, eats, shoots, and leaves. So look at that, if you're going to place a punctuation mark, which is comma at the wrong place, then that's really going to cause blunder. So, and that's the reason I, wanted to, bring home this point through this particular story. There could be more goof ups like, what we have on the next slide. Pragati, can we have the next slide, please? So, again, in a very humorous way, these points, have been written on the slide. Occasions, these situations have been taken into account, where wrong punctuation has been used. So the first sentence is, my client said to his sister, let's eat grandpa. So look at that, if you don't use a comma, at the right place, so poor grandpa would be eaten away. So the second sentence, we have, Ray finds inspiration in cooking her family and her dog. So again, you need to put the comma at the right places again. So that becomes important here. So remember, I would just like to end now. I would like to close. Pragati, can we have the last slide, please? So I would like to close now by pointing out that, as that was, I think, very specifically pointed out by both Dean Sir and by Professor Sharma, that we cannot really work on our sub-skills of communication, on our four sub-skills, which are LSRW, in isolation. So it becomes very important for us to focus on, both language by eye. Pragati, the previous slide, please. The language by eye, and language of hand. So language by eye is, of course, reading, and language of hand is writing. So remember, reading and writing will always go hand in hand. You cannot be a good writer unless you have read well. And therefore, I think I would really like to recommend two very important readings to my students here. So one is Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, right? Which will really make you wiser as a scholar. And the second is The Firm by John Grisham, right? Which is, I think, which relates to your profession, which relates to your academic area. So I would like to end by saying that, stay very safe, eat very healthy. And I would really thank Dean Sir again, Jyoti ma'am, and Ravinder ma'am for this opportunity where I could interact with students from outside my department. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatnagar. It was a wonderful session. At late evening, I was apprehensive that how will this go. But apart from little bit technical glitches, it is a very nice webinar. And as they say, the taste of pudding is in eating. We had around 190 plus participants.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
I must congratulate you and Dr. Jyoti and Ms. Ravinder for organizing this webinar. And I think we all need to improve our English, because English is not our mother language. It's not a mother tongue. So, and we do our most of our written job is in English. And but my personal experience is, as we keep reading and writing and talking with people in English, this certainly improves. So if we have a earning for improving in any direction, maybe English communication or any other skill, we certainly can improve. And as ma'am has suggested, these two books, I think on first book there is an English movie also.
Right, the second, The Firm, yes.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise starrer film, yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes.
So wonderful, and we can have question answer. Dr. Jyoti
Sure.
can coordinate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enriching session. Now, I would request all the participants to put forward their questions, queries, or observations in the chat box. If anyone has a question, please put it down in the chat box. We'll address them one by one.
By the time we have some question, I'll tell you one more thing. Like many words have different pronunciation, and many times we, because of lack of understanding, we pronounce a word in a very weird way. And there are sound dictionaries nowadays available on mobile. So we should make very extensive use of these sound dictionaries. They help us improve our pronunciation.
So it's a part of phonetics, like it comes under linguistics. We can have a training of sounds, like English sounds, where we can train students with how to pronounce a particular word or sound, to understand the symbols. Like, we can read dictionary in different ways. We can read for learning pronunciation. There are certain symbols given in the dictionary, but for that, students should have technical knowledge of those symbols. So if one can easily learn pronunciation of a particular language. So we can also organize a session on this.
Yeah, that will be
It
very
would be
useful.
really helpful for the students to have it.
All right. I think, Jyoti, there are some questions that we can see in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a question, what is the first step to speak English fluently? So it's related to speaking.
Okay.
I think you can easily answer this question, and how to improve vocabulary.
Okay. All right. So the first question, which is, how to
Speak.
speak. Okay, speak
Huh.
well.
Yeah.
All right. So this question is by which student? What is the name of the student?
It's by something called, I think, Advocate Neetu.
Okay.
It's adv.neetu.
Okay, it's okay. All right. So hi. So your question is, how to enhance speaking skill. So as I pointed out in my presentation earlier also, all the 4 skills are interrelated. You cannot really work on one skill in isolation. You can never do that. So now supposing if you have to enhance your speaking skill, then you need to work on the other 3 skills as well. And once you work on the other 3 skills, then you will automatically be fluent enough. So read as much as you can. So this is what we always encourage our students to do. Read as much as you can. But then there is a way of reading also. So when you read, just don't, read for pleasure. Then read extensively, skim your reading. All right. So skim for central idea. Use your critical thinking when you're reading. So just don't read for pleasure. So there is a way of, reading in the same manner, listen to good videos. So when you listen to good videos, again, use, very extensive listening when you do that, which means that you focus on not only on the style, but you also focus on the content. And there's again a very important aspect, when it comes to reading and listening. So if you go to the same segment again and again repeatedly, then that the vocabulary stays in your mind. So I'm going to connect the first question with the second, which is to enhance vocabulary, right? So obviously, you can never work on vocabulary again in isolation. So it is always contextual. Remember that. So you'll always be able to once you understand the context of that particular word, then only that word will stay in your mind. And this will come from repeated exposure to the same section, right? Whether it is reading or listening. So reading and listening, are extremely important here when it comes to building your vocabulary, when it comes to enhancing your first skill, which is speaking. So I think the answer to both the questions, is the same in a way. Yes.
Ma'am, we have another question by a student called Garima. She's asking, how can we assess our communication skills, like to gauge them, to measure them? How do we gauge our communication skills?
Beta, it is not easy to gauge, communication skill. All right. But then there are certain tests that are available. I think the other faculty, Ravinder and Dr. Jyoti can also come in to answer this question, because there are a number of tests that are available on the internet, through which you can, gauge yourself. We have vocabulary.com, for instance, where you can gauge your vocabulary. In the same manner, you can record your session, and then you can listen to your session and see, how does that sound to you. So these are some of the areas, of gauging yourself. Yes. But then, not in the most objective manner. Yes.
Yes. So we have another question. How do you prevent your emotions to come in our professional writing?
Oh, this is a very good question. So remember, when it comes to professional writing, you need to be, as objective as possible. Why? Because you need to be very systematic, you need to be very logical, all the objective details you need to rely on. It has to be fact-based. But at the same time, you have to keep your emotions away. You have to keep your subjectivity away from your writing. And how does this happen? This happens through adopting the right style of writing, which is the most objective style. So one of the ways is, to use the third person in writing. So when supposedly I have to write the report, I will not use I's at all. I will not use the first person at all. So when you don't use the first person, right, then automatically, when it comes to writing, then the objectivity will pour in. So these are some of the areas that you have to be careful. So one is, of course, your style of writing. So you have to first understand and learn the style of writing so that you can put it in the most objective fashion. Yes. Could I answer your question? Are you satisfied, Bita?
Yes, ma'am. I think you have more or less answered the question. Now we'll move on to the
Dr.
next one.
Bhatnagar, some of the questions are from very senior people.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, all right. I thought largely my audience was students. Okay.
No. There are some senior people also.
We all are students, ma'am, and
No, not at all. No, not at all.
No, perfectly, and we want to stay students.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
we're all students. This is a learning process for me as well. Yeah, we're all students.
Wonderful.
Thank
There's
you,
a
ma'am.
question from a student. Sabiha, what kind of language should be used to attractive?
Okay, what kind of language should be used in
To make a report attractive.
to make the report attractive?
Attractive.
Okay.
So I think we have already discussed in the technical writing section. She's from
Right.
here, and we have already discussed that it should be objective in nature. It should be
Very true.
to audience.
Yeah.
The
Very
kind
true.
of words that we are using.
Right.
So we focus on all those elements.
Perfect.
Correct, concise, comprehensive.
Very
So-
true. Perfect. Yeah.
And ma'am, I would just like to make a point here. I think we all need to go back to the basics, right? What we do is we often aspire for good writing skills, but what we forget in the process is that we actually need to go to back basics, right? So that's the most pertinent factor, which would actually play an instrumental role in improving our writing skills.
No, that's extremely important. Your point is very well taken. Because at a number of times, what happens, when we are concentrating on the style of writing, we generally forget, how important the structure should be. We really don't focus on that at all. So, very, very small nuances like, the proper structure where you have the subject, which is followed by the predicate, which is, something, which sounds, something very irrelevant, but it is not. So we need to focus on, these details as well. So your point, yes, is very well taken. Yes, we need to go to, the roots of, learning. So that really helps us in building, good content. Yes.
Ma'am, we have another question by someone called Manikanknadatta.
Okay.
How to be more confident when it comes to public speaking, especially when your accent might differ from the rest of people? This is a problem most of us face. So, ma'am, yes.
I don't know. I really don't believe in the fact that, accent, because you don't have the right accent, then you should not be confident enough. So as I said earlier also, communication is a combination of both your subject competence and your linguistic competence. So remember, whenever we talk about, linguistic competence, right? Then we always, tell our students that, unless you have the command on the subject, you'll not be able to communicate that at all. So don't worry about, how your accent is, whether you be able to pronounce the word properly or not, because, we have different accents in, different languages, remember that. And we're Indians, so we obviously, have our own accent. So you don't need to worry about that at all. I might, vary in my opinion, but then, that is my opinion. So because we all have yes, so because we all have been exposed to. So look at our Prime Minister Modi, all right, who's so confident, right? But then he does not have that accent at all. But look at him, he's so confident. So why? Because he has the command over his subject. So competence becomes important, I believe.
Very important, yeah. And we have, when you talk about Indian English, then that Indian English actually focuses on the kind of pronunciation. We don't have aspiration in Indian English.
Very true.
British or American English. So it is accepted worldwide. Ma'am, there is one more question. Children do not want to write. Please suggest ways to encourage teenagers to write and just not text.
Okay.
Question.
So
encourage them to write and not to text.
This is what we have been relentlessly doing in our classroom teaching also. We generally ask you to keep away your mobile phones if you know. So if you can recall, the classroom setting, we generally don't encourage our students to use their phones. So please use your phones as less as possible. And, when it comes to writing, very small aspects like writing a diary before you go to sleep, that can also help you in strengthening your writing skill. So these things seem to be very trivial, but then these are not. So these are very small ways to enhance your skill. So diary entry, I think, is one way that is something very interesting, and you can of course enhance your skill in that manner. But then of course that is subjective writing, remember that. So there are two different aspects here. One is subjective and the other is objective. So objective is what we had discussed in the presentation. But obviously, your subjective writing will always lead to your objective writing.
Ma'am, we missed one question, which is by Gayatri J. Jayaraman.
Okay.
The question is, so she's saying that she knows the right vocabulary to be used at a certain point, but when she writes something, and we just keep looking for right words to express our thoughts. So how to overcome that anxiety to look for the right word?
Okay. Yes. So Gayatri, it's an important question. So yes, as I said earlier also, most of us, have been exposed to, vocabulary. But then, when it comes to writing, we generally, feel, loss at words. This generally happens, I think, with everybody. It's not just you, Gayatri. It happens with, most of us. So what is extremely important is to read as much as you can, which is called contextual reading. How that particular word, has been used in the context. So as I said earlier also, once you read, then, and that too very extensively, then that word in the right context will stay in your mind, and that will show in your writing. So again, as I said earlier also, this will come from reading. So read as much as you can. So and when you read, then please focus on the words. Isolate those words at that time, right? And then, use those words in your own manner, in your own way, right? So that those words, stay in your mind forever. Yes.
I'm sorry, we have mostly questions from speaking related to speaking skills. Now there is one more question.
I think Jyoti, Dr. Jyoti will have to arrange a session on speaking skills for the students. So,
but I think I can answer this. So it's people who try to speak English at beginning stage, they will be using fillers, but at later stage, it will be very difficult for them to speak without fillers. Could you please suggest some ideas to overcome that? So in that case, whenever you lack words or ideas or the appropriate expression, give a pause, stop, think, and then speak. Speaking with a proper pace and with proper pauses would give an effect to your speaking skills. So that you can do by stopping, by giving pauses, proper pauses, in spite of using fillers.
Very true.
That is the answer to the question.
Yeah, I second that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. This was such an interesting and enlightening session.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes, Ravindra.
Very good.
Yes, ma'am. So we do have a few questions. Okay, so there's one question by Dr. Uma Maheshwari. She's asking, a lot of times to think in regional language and tend to translate it in English. Does it have any kind of impression on the way we communicate or on the audience? Given that we think in a certain language and then we translate it.
So yes, I would not recommend, translation method to anyone. So, that, becomes a little difficult. So, when we, think in our own language first and then, try to, translate that into, English or into, any other language. So that becomes a little difficult. Why? Because, the register becomes different with each language. So as we were discussing this earlier also, each language has a different register, a different style of writing, right? A different structure. So that would not be recommended. So you cannot use the translation method, right, to enhance your writing skill. So I would not really encourage that to happen. Could I answer that? Ravinda, would you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So there's someone called Jyoti Rajulwala. I think we did address this question sometime before, a while ago.
Okay.
We did address this
Okay.
question. Ma'am, given that we don't really have any more new questions, I think we'll move to the close of the session. I seek permission from. I would like to seek permission from Dean Sir to close the session.
Yeah,
Dean Sir.
wonderful session.
Okay, sir. We'll proceed to the vote of thanks then.
Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. Now, coming to the close of the question and answer session, we'll proceed to the vote of thanks. Our Honorable Dean Sir, Dr. Pradeep Kulshrestha, respected Speaker, Dr. Gurpyari Bhatnagar Ma'am, our most valued guests and dignitaries, my dear colleagues and participants, it is my privilege to be delivering a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, Ms. Ravinder Kaur, Assistant Professor with School of Law, on behalf of Sharda University School of Law, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the distinguished speaker, Dr. Gurpyari Bhatnagar Ma'am, for taking out time from her busy schedule and through the mode of this webinar, sharing her valued opinions and expertise on the topic of written communication and imparting key ideas on how to write effectively. We can start making use of this acquired knowledge by instilling these key concepts in our writings. I am particularly positive that each one of us would have benefited from such skill-enhancing session. A big thank you to all the participants who patiently listened to the speaker and graced the event with their enthusiastic participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, so much. Thank you,
Thanks a
ma'am.
lot.
And thank you, Pragati.